Hello, everybody. My name is Deirdre Mooney, and I want to, first of all, thank Inspired for inviting me along to this knee-trembling exercise, and also to thank the presenters that went before me, because they were all very interesting. And mine is going to be a little bit more, I suppose, tongue-in-cheek, really. Right, so without further ado, I think we'll just move on. Oh, look at that. So, I thought the title was about the best I could come up with, which is Remember the Human in a Human-centric. They talk about human-centric technology all the time, but they forget about the actual human itself. So on the content end of things, basically, I'm going to give you a little tiny snippet about me and about the place I work. Then we'll talk about, tools versus technology and versus culture. What does human-centric actually mean? Who are the humans we're trying to impress? And, how do we know what humans want? And let's be honest, usually we just ask them, but we forget sometimes to do that. Then taking it from an actual technology point of view, and especially from the software development life cycle, I'll go through a little cycle and show you where the humans are and where they should be and where more of them should be, in my view. Talk a little bit about empathy in digital, how we can actually have empathy in digital. Like, we forget that even though we're digitally inclined, we can still show emotion. And then give you a little quick snippet of some of the tools that, the technology tools that WBA are using on a day-to-day basis in their retail pharmacy. And finally, a little bit about the benefits. And then, of course, the old questions. So without further ado, who am I? Well, I've been in IT for, too many years to mention, but 36 years in IT management and consultancy. I've probably worked in every industry there is in Ireland and in Europe. I started out when I was training as a programmer a long time ago. We had punch cards and we had 10-inch floppies, and we had discs that were, I think they were, they were counted in gigabit, in megabytes at the time, so like maybe 34 megabytes, and we thought this was massive. So like, things have changed when you think that, you hold the phone in your hand and you've got literally the world. So we've come a huge way in a very short amount of time. And one of the things that I believe, and I think it's been demonstrated to me over and over again, is that communication and clear communication, I suppose, really makes all the difference when it comes to speaking to people and getting buy-in to whatever vision it is you have. I'm a doer. I'm also a thinker, but I'm mainly a doer. And sometimes I'm quite an impatient doer. I believe that tools are there to be used, but they're often abused. And then just as a small little aside, for my sins, I was the president of South Dublin Chamber of Commerce for a couple of years, which was a lovely time in my life, I have to say. So WBA Technology Centre. WBA Technology Centre is a wholly owned subsidiary of WBA, and it was set up in Ireland 3 years ago. And it's set up as a centre of excellence on the technology side, and it also provides software as a service to Walgreens directly. So our customer, we've got one big customer. They're called Walgreens. They have almost 9,000 stores, and we deliver their software. The people in Walgreens is one of their major assets, and they have this lovely vision saying, what they want is more joyful lives through better health. And so that's basically something that all our goals within the company, they all work towards that joyful life aspect. Aspirational, but So human-centric and the tooling. So what I say is one is not quite the same as the other, and I want to talk about tools first. So very often in the company, especially, if there's a change in senior management, they'll say, we need to change the culture. And then suddenly they'll be talking about some tool like maybe ServiceNow or Salesforce or Jira, and they'll say, this will make all the difference. And you're saying, but you did no business requirements, you did, So, and like, what are you trying to actually achieve? So they forget that the humans need to know all the whys. And like, why is probably the most important question that's never answered or never asked even. So this is something that we try, well, I try and I've tried to instill in any of my team members, that if we continue to forget that tools aren't the actual be-all and end-all. They are only a way of facilitating. And don't forget, tools can be really bad too. Like, when you think about it, when they created drones, this was wonderful. I mean, it was used for delivering, like medicines and it was used for finding people. And now look what it's been used for. It's been used to drop bombs on people. So like anything can be good and bad, but it's the people that are using them that are good or bad. It's not the tools themselves. So I put this in because I really like it. And the reason I like it is because it actually does show what I'm trying to talk about, which is, that it's what's in the person's brain, what's in their feelings, where they're looking, what they're looking for, what is going to be really important to them, and they can get these serviced by various different digital tools, etc. So, like, putting people before anything else is what human-centric means, and it's something that we keep on forgetting, or worse, we only take a certain number of people and ask them. Again, very often what happens is it's the senior people in the company or in the function or the department that are asked, and they forget about the people who are actually doing the groundwork. When I was working in CRH, one of the things that we did was we had a VIP list, and initially, of course, the VIP list had all the top heads, and then we realized actually they're not the important ones to the systems. The ones that were really important were the dispatch clerks at each of the quarries. Because if you had, if your machine wasn't working or your printer even wasn't working, it meant you had lorries backing up the whole way, and you didn't have, your sales weren't being made. So we changed the entrance on the VIP list to all the dispatch clerks in each of the countries, and it meant that if a call came in from one of them, they basically went up to a P2 rather than just a P3 rather than a P4, and they got extra help, and it does make the difference. So I'm just wondering who are the humans that we want to support? And I've taken it from WBA's point of view, in that, we're looking at our customers, we're looking at the patients who come to the pharmacies, we're looking at the pharmacists themselves, we're looking at the technicians in the pharmacies. And they're all the front using people, but then you've got to look at the technical people. Like, how do they know what they're expected to deliver? And, how is it communicated to them? Do they, like, how many times have you talked to a developer or even a QE tester or a QA tester even, who has never been out at the coalface where all the work is done? So how can they know what it is that the product should be delivering? So I emphasize the fact that we need to get closer to the end user. And the best way to do it is to go out and look. And the next best way is to video them and talk to the people on video and share it with the technical people. But the technical people need to know. And that's one area that I'm really, really passionate about. In relation to the other stakeholders, like we have the normal, like, the shareholders, the finance people, the logistics people, the marketeers, all of them, and they all have their own individual needs as well. And each one of them are looking for something different. And typically what you have is one system is expected to do it for everybody. And then you wonder why it's so complex. But anyway, that's why we have good people in, and that's why we have, software development life cycles that are supposed to capture everything. So I just want to bring you through the the cycle as I see it, and some of the areas that I basically would comment on. So to me, the big thing is getting the requirement gathering right. And the first thing you need to do is you need to include everybody. So it's not enough. Like, you have to have the most diverse crowd of people ever to start filtering what are the genuine needs. And that's why I put loads of little people there at that stage. Then you go on to the analysis. And the problem there with analysis is very often there's very little, there's a lot of assumptions made. And so there's not enough detail. If you think about it, if you know how to do, work teams, for instance, something that we all probably are working with, and if you were trying to tell somebody how do you actually use teams, you miss so many steps, because it's just you do that every day. Like, why would you think about it? But when you're writing for designers and for coders, you need to tell them every single minute step. So I equate it to, if you're trying to teach a child how to bake a cake or bread, there's a huge amount of things they need to know that they wouldn't know. So like the fact even that you have to put it into a tin, what kind of flour, what kind of liquid do you use? Do you use water? Do you use milk? And what is a rising agent? And, how do I get my hands on it? Sugar, like, look at the different types of sugar. There's 5 or 6 different types of sugar. So you need to know all those details. And it's the same when you're working on requirements for any kind of a solution of a technical nature. So what I'm saying is remove assumptions, literally go down to the very, very base level. And then, you get your designers involved, and you get your coders, and then the testers. Your testers need to know the wants. They need to be totally familiar with the user requirements. They need to be totally familiar with the environment that the users are going to be in, so they can make sure that it'll work there. And very often the test cases don't reflect that. And the other thing is, I stuck 2 people there beside the testers. And the reason why I put 2 is because very often we just don't test enough. And then we wonder why we have little bugs. Sometimes we have a lot of bugs. And it's those that really bring on the superhero run-ups. My area, of course. So we're expected, so typically run-ups or maintenance or service delivery, they're expected to fix all the issues that have gone before. And the reason why is usually starts with the requirement gathering, but it's all the shortfalls along the way that lead to, like, run-ups should really have very little to do. The only things they should have to do in an ideal world is they should have to put in new releases and just monitor them. That's not real life, I'm afraid. So anyone else think that run-ups get a hard knock? Ray, well done. So then I was thinking about digital and digital technology, and we know that empathy is really important, but I genuinely think that we have got the ability to see empathy in digital usage, and I mean, just from the very, very start, like we can see if somebody doesn't use a product, then you can say hand on heart, well, it mustn't make them feel good, otherwise they would use it. So that in itself is describing empathy, maybe negative empathy, or it could be that it just takes off completely and you say, I never thought that this product would actually go viral. And it's wonderful, and why did it happen? And it's only when you look into it, but then you say, how can I find out what made it successful or unsuccessful? So you do your digital listening on social media. You scrape things from social media. You work out what it is that is being said. Is it good things? Is it bad things? What kind of percentage? Measure it. Then you can conduct interviews. And like, the lovely thing about surveys are fine, especially when they're digital. They're a quick way of doing things. All I say is, please, please, please always have a free form placed so people can put in their comments, because that's where the gold nuggets are, in those comments. Because very often you'll get someone saying, well, if you had only done this, and then you're saying, wow, there's a change I can put in, and that'll really help, and it's a really good idea. And it costs you nothing to get it, which is even better. But also, like when you're doing interviews, like the trick is to, either do one-to-ones or one-to-manys, and preferably face-to-face. But if you are using video, if you are using digital means of doing interviews, for goodness sake, insist that everybody has their camera on. Like, there should be no reason. Even if there is a child in the background, just say, excuse my child. They're very noisy. And then use storytelling. Like, we're being taught now, there's a lot of courses out on storytelling, and it is the medium that gets the most traction. And it is it's a completely human way of communicating. And I don't think AI will get to it yet. They'll have a version of it, but it won't be the same. And then the other thing then is, measure whatever it is that you're doing, because if you don't measure it, you'll never learn. Sorry, excuse me, I just need to take a drink. So these, what I've got up here on the screen are the human-centric products, or some of the human-centric products that we're using in WBA. So like we have the online, prescriptions or refills, or the ordering. There's the mobile notifications that say, come and pick up your prescription is ready now. We then have, the wearables where you have something on your arm or even around your waist, whatever it is, and you're able to get that put to an app, usually that's near you, and then that app will send it off to your doctor, pharmacist, whatever it is. When you go online, we have this little darling chatbot that really helps you, and again, the chatbot needs to be trained on how to answer questions, how to try and be as emotive as they can, and kind of design it properly. Then there's apps that actually help people with the taking of their medication. So it tells them when to take it, how much water they should have with it. They take it before the bed or else wake up. Like if you're, for instance, if you're on steroids, for God's sake, don't take it before you go to bed. Otherwise you'll never sleep. And then we have virtual consultations with the pharmacist. That's becoming very popular. And I mentioned the drones already, that we actually use drones to deliver prescriptions to out-of-the-way places, and especially when people can't, when they're immobile. And then I've got a video here, which I'm not actually probably going to actually show you, but if you get the handout, you'll be able to click on it and have a look. But that's from our multi-fulfillment center, and we have several of them. And the idea there is that about 80% of the most prolific ordered drugs get sent, the prescriptions for those get amalgamated, sent off to a multi-fulfillment center, and then they put into the pill boxes. In the States, they still put everything in pill boxes. They don't do the blister packs like we do. And it means that the time then that is saved by both the technician and the pharmacist can be used to do other things. And those other things would be, maybe kind of give vaccinations, do in-depth explanation of why or what your medication is doing, all that type of thing. So it means that we can add additional services. And sometimes those additional services can be charged, which means we make more money. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And just coming now to, nearly the very end, you're doing well. You're staying focused. So the benefits, basically, having human-centric applications and technology of any sort, the first thing is we need them to be able to delight the customer. So we need that joyfulness to be gained from their use. And if we're able to do that and we're able to effectively communicate what they're doing, then it means that we will gain the loyalty of the customer base. And after all, it's much easier to keep a hold of a customer than to try and get a new one. And we all know it's much less costly. Then the whole know your customer, like you need to develop good personas, and those personas need to be 3D and maybe even 4D, because you need to think about their feelings as well. So it's not just how they might act, how they might look, but how they might feel. And it's an important thing to make sure you get, because then it'll mean that your product will continue to develop and will continue to delight. Then we want to eliminate any waste, and that waste also includes time wasting. So if we're able to eliminate any wasting of time, it means we've got more time to allocate to the humans again. And finally, like if you were able to free up the time, naturally enough, you can then increase the profits. And I just had a little tiny thing on the side talking about, the reminders for technology design, and that really was just like to demonstrate that the humans, it has to start with the humans, and that's where the requirements are in particular. That the digital thing can do all the nice stuff like the machine learning, the AI, like the automation, all that. And then the outputs, you have to know what it is you're expecting to get out of it. And if you do that, I think you're doing fine. So what I did is a tiny little exercise. This is my last slide. So I asked an AI imager, Da Vinci, if anyone wants to know, to actually create what they thought human-centric technology would be. And look what they gave me. They gave me a very nice female humanoid robot. And I thought, wow. Whereas what I think is absolutely a positive human-centric technology is the family car, because it does so many things for you. It brings you from A to B. It gets you out of the rain sometimes, and it can bring all your holiday gear with you, and it can make you very happy. So with that, I'll let you go.